Welcome back. It's playoff season. It's bracket time. Let's talk about what's going on up here. This is the least confident I felt in a bracket for the NHL playoffs in years, so please don't take this to heart. um, Trying to do my best to come from an unbiased place here. I don't really care to see these playoffs progress to this manner. There's a lot of teams I'd rather not see progress. And there are teams in here I'd rather see make a little bit of a run, make some noise, be a little fun. Starting off with the Central Conference or whatever division, Colorado, LA Kings. I have Colorado winning. The top three lines for Colorado solid. Defense pretty solid, right? You have some guys that are a little more offensively oriented, opens up a few holes on the back end, but overall they're pretty solid. They have depth as well, both offensively and defensively. Kings, I think, they're very, I don't know. I don't have a whole lot of faith outside of maybe that first line, plus Fiala. Defense is fine, but I think Colorado is just the better team here, and I think they handle the Kings very well. Dallas, Minnesota, really interesting matchup. I think this could go either way. I do have Dallas on the board. I do have Minnesota continuing their streak of losing in the first round. Um, and a large part came down to coaching. Dallas really has kind of an unproven coach when it comes to the NHL playoffs, but has shown in other leagues, specifically the ECHL, he can coach in the playoffs. We'll see how that translates to the NHL, but the Wild also have John Hines, who is notoriously a terrible playoff coach. And when we've seen games where matchups matter and so on, there's questions to be had. On top of that, Dallas, you have Jake Ottinger in net. Minnesota, you going with Gustafson, who's kind of been up and down, mostly down lately. You're going to go with Wallstedt, who's your goaltender. Defensively, there can be holes opening up. Quinn Hughes can at times be a liability. Jared Spurgeon at points this year has been a liability. Whereas Dallas is really more of a defensive defenseman core. Heiskanen should be back at some point. Rope Hintz should be back. I think they're both projected to miss roughly the first two games. But Dallas's offense, I think, is really the needle mover here. Dallas has a lot of depth offense that Minnesota doesn't have. Minnesota has lines 1 and 2, right? Really behind Kaprizov and Boldy, and that's really it. Dallas also a little better in the special teams, so I'm picking Dallas. Yeah. Plus, we've seen this story before. Moving on to the Pacific, we got Vegas playing Utah. It's Vegas, man. Up and down. The roster is just solid for Vegas. I had much higher expectations, but they also have a new coach in Tortorella, and they've been really hot. They got that new coaching bump under Tortorella. I expect that to carry over at least into the first round of the playoffs. We'll see what happens. But yeah, I think Vegas is just overall, they have a solid defensive structure, and Utah still working on some of that. They're coming together really nicely. They've progressed a lot from last season. They're still working on that team defense, getting some of those forwards to buy into playing defense. But try, they're going to be very good for years to come. Edmonton, Anaheim. This is kind of tough. Draisaitl, we don't know when he's coming back. Should be soon. Maybe start of the playoffs. Will he be playing hurt throughout the playoffs? We don't really know. Kind of a big factor here when Edmonton's offense really relies on three guys, being Draisaitl, McDavid, and Bouchard. Zach Hyman's been solid, right? I think he's over a point per game, scoring goals. He's kind of a net front presence. You have other guys as well, but I'm not betting against Connor McDavid in the playoffs. I'm just not. Anaheim, outside of their first line offensively, I have some questions. I think there's some good depth there. Seneca's been great. I also have some questions on their defense in the defensive side as well. I think they kind of leave Dostal a little too exposed to the other team's offense. A few too many 2-on-1s and just bad defensive plays. Anaheim, I think, is really progressing in the right direction, just like Utah. I just don't think this is the year they progress out of the first round. I don't know. I guess let's go to the first round on the other side. I don't know if I want to progress this way or just get the first round done. All right, Atlantic, Buffalo, Boston. This is tough. These teams match up so well on paper. They're so close together in so many aspects. Um, I did end up picking Boston partly because of the team, probably the roster. The players have playoff experience. They kind of know what to expect, and Buffalo doesn't have a whole lot of experienced playoff guys on their roster. Very few. Also, Boston's built around defense. Their forwards are excellent at playing defense. Their defensive core in general is pretty strong. Um, Both teams have questionable third pairing defense at times, but Boston is a defensive team. Marco Sturm has sacrificed that defense to try and produce more offense, and it's worked. So I think some of it will come down to Marco Sturm's playoff game plan, whether they have to kind of sacrifice some of that defense into offense or not. Um, Goaltenders, we know Jeremy Swayman can be great in the playoffs. I don't really know what to expect out of Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen. I think he'll be good. I'd be surprised if he wasn't the starter. He should be the starter. Yeah, so we'll see. I picked Boston, but honestly, if you wanted to pick Buffalo, you're not going to get an argument from me here. Like you could go either way. Tampa Bay and Montreal. It's got to be Tampa. I think Tampa is much better suited for playoff hockey. They have a solid defensive core, right? Victor Hedman probably shouldn't expect him back throughout the Stanley Cup playoffs. Who knows? But he's dealing with personal stuff. But they also have a solid top two offensive lines. Montreal is very, very offensively oriented. When it comes to defense, when it comes to some of those lines playing team defense as well and goaltending, I think it's just you got to give the edge to Tampa Bay here. I think it's their series to lose. Montreal needs to shore up some things, especially on defense. But if they do that, I think they're just like Anaheim, Utah. I think they're going to be good for a long time, which is not. It's not enjoyable for me to say because I'm a Bruins fan, but here we are. What we got? Carolina, Ottawa. I think it's Carolina, man. I do. I think Carolina is way more defensively sound. I think Ottawa. Did I say Ottawa? Carolina, Ottawa. Ottawa kind of struggles still with some of that team defense. I think their defensive core is really good. I think they can go up against a Carolina in terms of a defensive core. But when it comes to forwards playing defense, which is a significant factor, I think Carolina handles them, and it's not even close. Again, Ottawa, a lot of offense. Carolina, more defensively oriented. There are goaltending questions for Carolina. I'd assume Freddie Anderson might get the start. Freddie Anderson's been good the past 5 or so games. He's been very good. But Bussy has also kind of taken over that starting role. So I think they're doing like a 1A, 1B right now. So we'll see what goaltending brings as well. But I got Carolina. Pittsburgh, Philadelphia. Again, you could go pretty much either way. I'm kind of splitting hairs here. I think Philadelphia has a better ability to defend. I think Pittsburgh has more offensive firepower. A lot of their stats were pretty similar. The team build, team makeup, and coaching is very different. So it could go either way. You got Vladar in net for Philly, and you have, what's his name? Stuart Skinner in net for Pittsburgh. Both guys can be up and down. It could really go either way. So we'll see. Both of these teams, Pittsburgh and Philadelphia, had less points than the two wildcard teams, Ottawa and Boston, which is kind of wild. Moving on to the second round, we got Colorado and Dallas. This is tough. This is going to be a really good series. Dallas you're playing two of the top few teams in the league to get out of the second round. That's not an easy task. I think it's going to be a tough matchup with Minnesota. They're kind of going to beat them up, whereas Colorado might be a little easier of a ride. Maybe. We'll see. Kings tend to show up in weird times throughout the season, so they might show up this playoffs. Who knows? But overall, Dallas has won the last two series against Colorado. I don't know. I have some questions, I guess. How long can Jake Ottinger be playoff Jake Ottinger? We kind of see him peter out after a bit. Whereas Colorado has two pretty solid goalies, but they don't really have to rely on goaltending. Both teams have great forward depth. Both teams have pretty solid defense. I'd probably give the coaching edge to Colorado and the versatility of some of those players in Colorado to kind of outpace Dallas. This could very well be a game that goes series that goes 7 games. It would not surprise me. Both these teams are excellent, but I got to give the edge to Colorado right now. Again, a lot of these matchups, you can really kind of pick either team here and you'd be all right. And I don't think you could say that the past 2 years. I think there were clear favorites and clear matchup winners that everybody knew and happened. I don't think it's the same this year. Moving on to Pacific Round 2, Vegas, Edmonton. Again, Draisaitl, assuming he's back, assuming he's healthy, should be back, should be healthy. He's been out for a while. I'm not betting against Connor McDavid and Draisaitl with Zach Hyman this year against a Vegas Golden Knights team. We'll see how long that coaching bump lasts under Tortorella. He was hired on March 30th, I think. That usually kind of tapers out after a bit. I have questions about Vegas's depth, especially after those top two lines, and even then, some of those guys may be a little questionable. So I gotta pick Edmonton. I gotta pick Edmonton here. All right, round 2 in the Atlantic. We got Boston, Tampa. I'm picking Tampa. Tampa's just the better team. I'm a Bruins fan, and I try to take the bias out of it. But I think Tampa is the better team. I think if Tampa plays Boston or Buffalo, Tampa is winning that. I think by far they've been the best. Maybe not by far, but they've definitely been the best team in the Atlantic, in my opinion. Given the eyeball test stats, can be debated. But their defense is strong. They have one of the best second pairing defensive lines in the league. Right? You have Radish and Moser on the first line, and Moser has been an absolute beast. You have Vasilevsky in net, who is just world class. Started off really slow at the beginning of the season, but has just been on fire the second half. I'd expect that to continue into the playoffs. And they have solid depth. Their top two lines are solid. And there's room for some of these guys to improve and show up in the playoffs, like Braden Point, for example. They also can play a physical playoff style of hockey, just as Boston can. I'd expect this matchup to be kind of gritty, but I think Tampa wins that. Carolina, Pittsburgh, it's Carolina. I don't think this is all that close. Philly or Pittsburgh, if they won, I think Carolina takes that. I don't have much to say. The Carolina's defense is so good. Biggest question again for them is goaltending and maybe scoring goals, but the depth that Carolina has, the amount of goal scorers they have on each line is impressive. Pittsburgh can be very one-dimensional outside of like that first line and maybe like Malkin. There's a couple other guys that have and could step up, but in general, I really think Carolina is the better team here. Moving on to round 3, the final 4. Colorado, Edmonton. I got Colorado. I think Colorado's just built different this year. I don't like them. I think there are vulnerabilities in that team. I hate watching and cheering for Colorado, but it's just matchup by matchup, I think Colorado wins some of these matchups. I think they beat Edmonton. Line for line, I think with the depth Colorado has, they can keep up with the scoring that Edmonton has. I think when it comes to goaltending, who knows what's going on in net for Edmonton by round 3. Colorado, you have again Blackwood and Wedgwood. They both Woods. I just realized that. Both kind of split the starts this year. Not a big workload. So if one starts to falter, we could see the other one come in. And if that one starts to falter, the other one comes in. There can be a balance there, and both guys should be healthy enough and wet rested enough to make a long run throughout the playoffs anyway. Defensively, I give the edge to Colorado. You have Bouchard, you have McCarr, that offensive defenseman. I think they're both excellent. When it comes to defense, I think the rest of the defensive core, definitely Colorado. So I'm giving the edge to Colorado here. I don't think Edmonton gets it done this year. It's just a lack of depth, man. Hyman, again, big impact this year. Really, really important name to be in the lineup and healthy and scoring goals as he has this year and as he has in past years next to Connor McDavid. Matty Savoy, I love that kid. That kid's going to be a stud. I love that kid so much. That was a great draft pick. But yeah, I still got to give it to Colorado here. I think that roster is just built in a more durable, better way. I like their roster better. That's what I'm trying to say. And I also trust Colorado's coaching more than Edmonton's. I don't trust Edmonton's coaching at all. All they do, that's a conversation for another time. But coaching matchup, I give to Colorado as well. Tampa, Carolina. This is a tough series. I think both teams again have vulnerabilities. Carolina, we know, struggles to score goals in every Eastern Conference final. We'll see if that happens. Again, wouldn't necessarily surprise me. They always have good offensive stats throughout the regular season, really every year, and then it kind of just dries up in the playoffs because you don't have that one superstar, that one 40-plus goal scorer that some of these other teams have. You really rely on spreading it out, and we saw that with the 2008 Bruins. They had 8 20-goal scorers, and then when it came to playoffs, they were great in the regular season and had one of the most lethal offenses in the league. But when it came to the playoffs, there wasn't that guy they could just kind of rely on, or that guy that would step up, So I feel like that could be what happens with Carolina. We'll see. Again, 2 solid rosters. But I got to give the edge to Tampa. I think there's a little more scoring depth, and I think they match up really well defensively. And when it comes to goaltending, I got to give the edge to Vasilevsky. Proven to do it in the playoffs year after year. Very good goaltender. Again, is it Anderson? Is he going to get hurt? Is it Bussy? They've had, four goalies this year? Kachekov, right? And someone else. I keep thinking of Colton Ellis. Oh, is it Primu? I know Colton Ellis is in Buffalo. It might be Primu. I don't know. Doesn't matter. So I'm giving the edge to Tampa here. Stanley Cup. Colorado, Tampa. I don't want to see this whatsoever. I don't want to see either of these teams in the Stanley Cup Finals. I was really hoping both of these teams would fall off after their runs a few years ago, but here we are. I got the Avs, Colorado Avalanche, winning in 6 games. I think the Avalanche match up really well to Tampa. I think both teams have depth. Both teams have goaltending to an extent. Both teams have defense. The offense is good. If injuries happen, I guess I have a little more issues with Tampa. Like, what happens if one of your top 2 centers gets hurt? Is Yanni Gord now your second-line center? Like, what are we doing here? Whereas Nazem Kadri is the third-line center in Colorado. He's reliable. He's defensively oriented. He's a really good defender. He's solid offensively, assuming he doesn't get himself into trouble, which he hasn't in years, so credit to Kadri. I don't know. I just think after so many rounds, you're going to have injuries. You're going to have players beat up. I think Colorado has that depth to be able to kind of overcome those injuries and so on. Again, all this is pending injuries to star players too, right? If McDavid goes down in round one after like game three, I don't know that they're beating Anaheim. For example, if Nathan McKinnon goes down in game three against or game two against the LA Kings, I don't know that they're beating the LA Kings. They might because their roster is good, but are they getting past Dallas? Probably not. Um, and, kind of just an example here, and that's applicable to a lot of these teams. Buffalo, Tage Thompson's a pretty important offensive piece for them. Are there guys that can step in? Sure. Some of these teams with some of that scoring depth may be a little more suited to recover well and not really have that injury to the star player affect them as much. But that's my bracket. I don't feel confident in this at all. I felt more confident the past couple of years, but yeah, this is there's a lot of good matchups that could go either way. But at the same time, we're seeing a lot of the same matchups year over year, right? So I don't know. Like, do I want to see Vegas and Edmonton play again? No. Do I want to see Dallas and Minnesota play again? No. Do I want to see Dallas and Colorado play again? No. I don't know when the last time we saw Colorado Edmonton was. I feel like it's been a while. I actually have no idea. Do I want to see Boston Tampa Bay again? Not really. I mean, it'll be a physical, gritty series. It'll be fun to watch. Hopefully, it's a little old school. Hopefully, there's some fights and a lot of physicality. But I don't know how many times do we have to see that, right? Pittsburgh, Philly, kind of newer into the playoffs, which is nice. Pennsylvania rivalry, and then you got a new team playing Carolina. I think Carolina has one of the easiest paths to the Eastern Conference Finals. Yeah, yeah, I'd say Carolina has the easiest path to the Final Four. So we'll see. Let me know what you think. Obviously, feel free if you agree, disagree, whatever. Again, a lot of these matchups can go either way, and you can make a case for a lot of these for some upsets too. Like if Ottawa were to upset Carolina in the first round, would that entirely surprise me? No, because Ottawa's offense is so good, whereas Carolina's offense may dry up and is kind of inconsistent, especially when it comes to the playoffs where you're really going hard at defensive hockey. Some of these players that have a nice balance throughout the regular season, like Aho, may shell up and really be defensively oriented and lose some of that offensive prowess. And because it's playoff hockey, we're going back to Boston Buffalo. Usually we see more defensive hockey rather than offensive hockey. It's more defensive, more physical. I also think that's kind of where Boston will have an edge. They have a really physical roster that matches up kind of really well against Buffalo. And again, they have solid defensive pieces both on the offensive side and defensive side. Buffalo has some good offensive pieces on the offensive side. Their defensive side's pretty solid defensively. But we'll see. So that's all I got. I appreciate you. Let me know what you got, what your brackets look like, whatever. Have a good conversation about it. But yeah, appreciate you. Take care, all right?